Welcome, mages, to Sage of Fables. I'm very excited about this episode because this is kind of like a tribal deck, and it's with a commander that it's one of those commanders that you see across the table and you're like, oh man, where are we even going with this? What big, awful, terrible things are happening? But you know what? It's not so terrible with this build because I like to take busted cards and make them fair with silly deck builds. And so for this week, we are doing Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, Big Butt Tribal. That's right, this deck is named after one of my favorite artists, one of her songs, Lizzo. Fuck it up to the tempo because we're going to be hitting you with some thick butts, big old booties. Because, and you know what? So songs are for skinny girls. Alright, so let's look at Atraxa. For a green, white, blue, and a black, you get a 4/4 legendary creature, Angel Horror, with Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink, all the keywords, and at the beginning of your end step, you get to proliferate. So we don't really care about Atraxa. What we're really looking to do is just use the colors that she gives us access to, because we do not have a creature in our command zone that allows us to hit with our butts. So we're playing all of the effects that allow that booty to slap, such as Arcades the Strategist, the one from M19, a 1 green, white, blue for a 3/5, notable butt. Legendary creature, Eldor Dragon with Flying and Vigilance. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, always good. And each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So a notable thing about all of these effects, which we are running all of them, or at least all of the ones that I could find, all 7 of these, is that there is a little bit of a balance to strike between having creatures that have Defender and don't have Defender, because like Arcades and High Alert just care about, or Arcades just cares about Defenders. So for all of our walls, which we are running a good handful of, they just, Arcades will just give our walls the ability to hit with their butts, but the rest of it doesn't grant that to the rest of our creatures. And so High Alert allows our creatures with Defender to attack as though they didn't have Defender. And it says each creature you control can deal combat damage with its toughness rather than its power. So it is important with these effects to look at the creatures that you have in hand and then make sure that you have an effect that matches that. Because if you have Assault Formation, for example, not Assault Formation, like Door in the Siege Tower, that just allows your creatures to assign damage equal to their toughness, that is not going to help our walls, although they'll make them great blockers, but it won't allow them to swing in. And so that is sort of a balance that is you have to strike in this deck and be very aware of while you're playing this deck. But with enough, we have so much redundancy of these effects, you almost, it hardly comes up where it's a problem. And then, of course, being able to draw cards with Arcades is sweet, especially because a lot of our walls, when they come in, they allow us to draw a card, like Wall of Blossoms. So be able to keep turning through our deck to pull more creatures to play, because this is an aggro deck, if you can believe it. So with Arcades and High Alert and Doran, we also have the Belligerent Brontodon, a 5 green white for a 4/6. That just has the basic laws of assigning combat damage with your toughness. We have Assault Formation, an enchantment for 1 and a green. Each creature you control deals combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and then it has an activated ability where target creature with Defender can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender, which is really nice. And then 2 and a green, creatures you control get +0/+1 until end of turn. So that is a really sweet Anthem effect that you can pump mana into. Definitely love that. And then we have Huatli, Sun's Heart from War of the Spark, 2 and a hybrid Celestia. So each creature you control deals kind of damage with its toughness rather than power. And then her -3 is you gain life equal to the greatest toughness amongst creatures you control. And then she comes in with 7 loyalty. So pretty good with our with our big beefy walls and big toughness. It is very easy to protect her, which is very nice. With the -3, I've never actually used it, but it's a nice option to have, especially since she does have 7 loyalty. And then our last one that we have is Wakestone Gargoyle. 3 and a white for a 3/4 creature gargoyle, defender and flying, and it has an activated ability for 1 and a white. Creatures you control with defender can attack this turn as though they didn't have defender. So that's always nice. Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate that it is an activated ability that's only for this turn, but it does well in a pinch. And it's a flying defender as well, which that is one of the things that this deck does have a little bit of a hard time with, is dealing with creatures that fly, because, well, they can fly over walls. So it is nice to have a creature that can block flyers that are coming in. So now that we can make those booties slap, let's talk about some notable booties we're running in this deck. So one of them, we've got 2 cards that give us walls, one of them being Teo the Shield Mage for 2 and a white for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. You have hexproof. It comes up. And then -2, create a 0/3 white wall creature token with Defender. Definitely really nice. Get to do that a couple times. Atraxa does have Proliferate, so there is some synergy, albeit small, with our commander. And then we also have an enchantment from Theros Beyond Death, The Birth of Meletus, for a 1 and a white. Search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Gets us a land. We actually are... Our mana pips are about like 46% white, interestingly enough. So getting a basic plains is actually really quite helpful, because the majority, or like almost the majority of our deck, majority of our cards require white mana to cast. And then on the second chapter on the saga is create a 0/4 colorless wall artifact creature token with Defender. So that's sweet. And then the third saga is you gain 2 life. So, I mean, it's fine. We don't really have any way of recurrent, but, I like sagas. I like playing them. And so it's, just a nice little one that it's, fits on brand. And then a very good card is Chulain, Teller of Tales, 2 green, white, blue, Vigilance, a 2/4 human druid. And whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And then 3 and tap, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. So this is nice. It gives us a pretty decent draw engine, especially with our walls that also, when they ETB, will draw us a card. So that's definitely nice. And then being able to, return things, redeploy them, get more value. Helps us ramp out so that we can keep putting more creatures out onto the battlefield so we can keep swinging. Very sweet. And then we have... oh man, you don't want to invite him to dinner, but he definitely has a place in this deck. That's your Nazi uncle, Disowned Ancestor. For a single black mana, a creature spirit warrior, a 0/4 with Outlast. That's right, the worst ability ever, but synergizes with our commander. So Outlast for 1 and a black. And so for those of you who don't know, Outlast, so you pay the mana cost, you tap the creature, and then you can put a 1/1 counter on that creature, and then you can only do it at sorcery speed. So yeah, I mean, it's really nice having low drop cards in this deck, because as soon as we get out one of our effects that allows them to attack with or to do damage with their toughness, oh man, it's, you just get some beaters, and then be able to put counters on this thing, and then we get to proliferate those counters. It's not nothing. And then we also have Dragonlord Dramoka, a 5/7 for 4 green white. Legendary creature, Elder Dragon. It can't be countered, it has flying and lifelink, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So it's nice. You're not, when you go into swing against someone, you're not going to get etherized, you're not going to get... Oh, what's that white one that exiles all attacking creatures? I'm going to remember it like 10 minutes from now and I'll tell you. And then you get lands. Settle the wreckage. Thank you, my beloved partner. You're not going to get settled the wreckage. You're not going to get psych rifted, which would definitely be very sad. And then we also have Ikrishidiki the Usurper. 3 black green, a 3/7, a legendary creature Naga wizard with menace. And whenever creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So it's definitely really nice. Definitely synergizes well. As this thing as basically a 7/7 with menace is a big deal. I thought about, instead of Atraxa, having like Ikrishidiki and Bird Wizard Ashai together as to make a partner pairing. But I really wanted to make an Atraxa deck because it's Atraxa. And I don't really care that much for playing partners, I'll be honest. I know it's so good, but I don't know. It's just a personal preference, especially, playing casually. And alright, so part 1. Part 2 of Notable Booties, we have Dryad of the Elysian Grove, who is doing the noble job of fixing our mana for us. It is an enchantment creature nymph for 2 green, a 2/4, and you may play additional lands on each of your turns, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So it's really nice playing in a 4-color deck to make sure you have your colors, to get to be able to ramp by playing extra lands. And with one of our 7 effects out is a 4/4. And then we also have Aketra the True, 3 and a white for a 3/6 legendary creature god with double strike and indestructible. And she can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. And then she has an activated ability for 3 and a white to create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. So really good having double strike and indestructible as effectively a 6/6. Oh boy, get to go on Beat Street. It's delicious. And then we also have the Wall of Stolen Identity. 3 and a blue for a shapeshifter wall. You may have Wall of Stolen Identity enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it is a wall in addition to its other types and has Defender. When you do, tap the copied creature and it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control this wall. So it's really nice to be able to, copy someone's really cool thing. Either we can copy, one of our creatures, so we can, copy one of our big creatures who's really cool, or if someone else has something that's neat, another big butted creature, we can copy that and tap theirs down as long as we have the wall. So it's nice to help us get it through with damage. And with Tulane out, if we want to be able to copy something else new that comes out, we can return it, replay it, draw a card, play a land, and yeah, keep doing that, which is neat. And then the Fen Deep Summoner, this was a sweet find. 4 and a black for a Treefolk Shaman, 3/5, and tap up to 2 target swamps, each become a 3/5 Treefolk Warrior creatures in addition to their other types until end of turn. So this works really well with the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, since all of our lands will be swamps. We're also running Urborg to make all of our lands swamps, so we get to be able to animate 2 of our lands, which will effectively become 5/5s, who will get to swing in, which is super cool, for just an activated ability of tapping. And then we have a beloved card that I've been dying to find a place for it so many times, and it finally found a home here. That's Skin Shifter for 1 and a green, a 1/1 human shaman, and its activated ability is green, and then choose one of the following. Until end of turn, Skin Shifter becomes a 4/4 rhino and gains trample, or it becomes a 2/2 bird with flying, or it becomes a 0/8 plant. That's right, for an investment of 3 mana, we get a vanilla 8/8. It's very silly. And I love it. Oh man, so good. And then our biggest beater of them all is the Tulpa Primal Dawn, 6 white for a 4/8. Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. That's right. This is going to be basically an 8/8 coming at your face in the air forever. It is a big, dumb beater with trample. The card's silly. This card it's insane in this deck. So good. So yeah, these are definitely some of the most notable big booty cards that we are running. Cards that I just think are really fun. They're powerful. They'll hit hard. And with that, we want to be able to ensure that we can protect them. So we are running. So like board wipes are our absolute just nightmare. And then also having our effects that prevent us from being able to sign combat damage with our toughness. We need to have those in play and we need to be able to protect them. So in order to do that, we have Eerie Interlude for 2 and a white. Instant, exile any number of target creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So of course, in response to board wipe, flicker all of our critters. A lot of them have ETB, so that, they'll come in, they'll draw us cards, etc. And to be able to save them. Another effect that's like that we're also running is Teferi's Protection. So until your next turn, your life total can't change. You have protection from everything, and all permanents you control phase out, and then you exile Teferi's Protection. And instant for 2 and a white. And then a card that I really love is it's a good dog. He's a good boy. He's the Resolute Watchdog. For 1 white mana, you get a 1/3 dog with Defender. And you can pay 1 and sacrifice it and give target creature you control indestructible until end of turn. So if someone goes to remove, after you swing in an attack, if someone goes to remove your Arcades, your Doran, you can sack the dog in order to... It gives his noble sacrifice to protect them, because he's such a good boy. And can be a 3/3 for 1 mana, which is nice. And then we also have Heroic Intervention, classic green card. We need 1 million more reprints of this card, reprinted in every set, I don't care. It is an instant for 1 and a green. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So really good against board wipes when someone, goes to... If they swing in against you, and you don't have a bunch of creatures out, or their creatures are bigger, you'll be able to save them. Just stellar card. Very, very well costed. And then, in order to make sure that we can actually get through to attack our opponents and get damage through, we are running some cards to help our booties beat. One of them being Oathsworn Giant for white for a giant soldier, a 3/4. Other creatures you control get +L/+2 and have vigilance. I think vigilance is a really underrated keyword in Commander, especially in casual Commander, because being able, to swing in and hold up blockers, especially because our blockers are just so hard to get through for our opponents to get damage through. And then giving them this big anthem is really nice. Excuse me. And then we're also running Primal Rage, 1 and a green, an enchantment. Creatures you control have trample. Very simple, straightforward. It's nice. And then we are also running Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive, 1 in a blue for a 1/3 human rogue. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. This isn't going to work, obviously, with all of our creatures. So, because we have cards like Jirawoka and Chulane, who obviously their power isn't 1 or less, but A lot of our creatures are like 0/4s, 0/5s, 1/3s, and just to be able to make sure to get even some of them in is really nice. And then we have Sidar Kondo of Jamura, 2 green-white, legendary creature, human knight. Hey, that rhymed. It has flanking, which means something that I totally know. Whenever a creature without flanking blocks Sidar Kondo, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. I totally knew that. That's totally relevant. And then creatures you control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less. So since we have a lot of lower power creatures, it's, like Tetsuko is able to get all of our walls and everything through. And then we also have Triumph of the Hordes. Classic green win condition. 2 green-white for a sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect. So it's nice with especially with Oketra, who is effectively a 6/6 with double strike, now becomes a 7/7 with double strike, trample, and infect, and is indestructible. That's game over for someone. And another one that I also really like is Behind the Scenes, an enchantment for 2 and a black. Creatures you control have Skulk, which means they can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. This is insanely good in Wall Tribal because they all have such low power, and so the effect in a lot of instances makes them unblockable. And then this enchantment has an activated ability. Creatures for 4 and a white, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So great mana sink for when we're getting flooded. Make sure our creatures get through. Oh, such a good card. Love to see it. Alright, so we've got our booties. We're making them slap. We're making them beat. We also need some card draw to make sure that we can get them onto the battlefield. So we're running our card draw mostly in the form of creatures, since it synergizes well with so many strong pieces in the deck, like Tulane, like Arcades. And so, let's see, we're running 29 creatures, I believe, which is arguably a little low. But I have found has been more than sufficient enough. So we have Beast Whisperer, 2 green for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. And then Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for a 2/2. And whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card. Perfect in this deck. And like I said, with our walls who come in and draw us cards like Wall of Blossoms, we've got Jungle Barrier, 2 green for a 2/6. Defender, when Jungle Barrier enters the battlefield, draw a card. We run a handful, maybe 4 or 5, I believe, that enter and pretty much do exactly this. And Orin Frostfang, 3 green for a 2/6. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch, so also nice to be able to get them through because people seldom want to block when they know their creature is going to die unless they are going to die. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So a nice, basically like Bite of Thassa effect on a big old bootied creature. And then we have Runic Armasaur, 1 green for a dinosaur, a 2/5. And whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or a land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. I really love this card. I have it in my Geschoff deck, and I find you either draw all the cards or you draw no cards. It really depends on the game. But pretty much any deck with green, I'm going to throw this creature in because, it's a 2/5 for 3 mana. It's pretty decent. Regardless, just, nice blocker to have around that can probably draw cards. And Sapling of Kolfanor, 3 and then 2 hybrid Golgari. So 3 black, 3 green, black, or 3 green. For a 2/5 legendary creature. Oh, I never realized it was legendary. Legendary creature, Treefolk Shaman. It is indestructible, and when it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to that card's toughness, and then you lose life equal to its power, and then you put it in your hand. Yes! We gain life. We draw cards. We get in for damage. I love it. That card is sweet. And indestructible, so good. All right. And then, of course, we've got card draw. We've got our creatures. We need to have removal. So there are a lot of board wipes in white, or at least a number of board wipes in white that care about, only killing big creatures or creatures with a certain power. And so we can kind of play board wipes a little bit proactively in this deck. So one of them is Dusk to Dawn. Dusk is 2 white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. That is going to get some of our creatures, but a significant amount of our creatures are going to remain on the battlefield, which is really, really nice. So it's definitely one nice way where we can just clear out a lot of blockers to ensure that we get damage through. And then Dawn is 3 white for a sorcery with Aftermath, so it can only be cast from your graveyard. Return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if they manage to get in a board wipe while we didn't have one of our protection pieces, this is a really great way to be able to get all of those back to our hand to redeploy them, which in a lot of instances is going to help us draw a lot of cards to sort of get that machine rolling again. And then a similar card is to Dusk is Fell the Mighty, 4 and a white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. So a lot of our creatures have 0 power. So we can choose that one, and then pretty much everything else is going to die. Which will hit some of ours, but hopefully we can draw into something like Dawn, or we can have one of our protection pieces like Heroic Intervention to save our side of the board, to make it a one-sided board wipe, a truly one-sided board wipe, which is really nice. And then sometimes you just gotta fucking exile everything. So, for every deck with black and white, I run Merciless Eviction. 4 white-black for a sorcery, and then choose one. You can either exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all planeswalkers. And so sometimes you just gotta send shit out and just never see it again. It happens. We've all had those games where you're just like, wow, I didn't draw any of the correct things that I need, and I'm definitely going to die. And so this is a nice just, oh shit button to be able to stabilize afterwards. And then some single target removal, of course, Anguished Unmaking, 1 white-black, an instant, exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. We're also running Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile. We want to make sure that we can, definitely pick off creatures that are in the way so that we can get damage through or be able, shut down whenever someone is trying, whatever piece that might be allowing someone to win. Definitely nice to have that sweet, sweet Orzhov removal. And along that, we also have Generous Gift. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant. Nice. Pretty much unconditional removal. And for when we really need to stop something, we have Dovin's Veto, 1 a white and a blue. An instant, this spell can't be countered and counter target non-creature spell. So we'll be able to, in order to proactively use this, to be able to, if someone goes to make their stuff indestructible in response to before damage as to declaring blockers, we could be like, nope, your stuff's gonna die, just kidding. Or to stop a board wipe, stop whatever shenanigans they're having. This card is one of the best counter spells I think ever made. And then to help us block flyers, we're also running Spider Silk Armor, 2 and a green for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +0/+1 and have reach. So, very good. It gives them a nice little anthem across the board to boost that toughness and to be able to block flyers. So that is very nice to have. And let's see, I think that is pretty much everything. Yeah. I really love this deck. I love decks that go to combat and just kick people's teeth in, if you haven't noticed. I'll try and do one next time that is, or at least in the next couple of videos, that is a combo deck, because I love winning by combos too, but This is a really nice aggro deck that is really, really quite resilient, and it's hard to stop once the engine gets going, because there's just some really powerful creatures in here that can give you such great value. And with Atraxa being Atraxa, doing Atraxa things. So this deck is something that I really love. I wanted to be able to take all of the effects that allow your creatures to deal combat damage with their toughness rather than their power, and put them all in the same deck, because I thought that was just, I don't know, thought it was silly. I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see if it would be successful. And I've definitely had some really great games with this deck. And yeah, so tell me your favorite creatures that have a higher toughness than power. Which ones would you put in? Would you go with the Sans Red build, or would you go with Arcades, or with oh lord, what is his name? True Folk Boy. Doran the Siege Tower. And yeah, if you proxy it up, put it on Cockatrice, play with your friends, let me know how it goes. I love hearing about people who try decks out, and either, and how it goes. It's definitely great feedback to hear. And yeah, this is definitely a fun deck. I have a poll up on Twitter now to determine what my next deck will be. So the options I have are my CEDH Valky Rakdos Storm deck that I've been working on, which is a lot of fun. I've played it on stream. Yeah, I played on stream once this past week, and it's a Storm deck. It either does the thing or it doesn't, and it's a lot of fun to figure it out. With combo decks, I have a Kaikar Cantrip Tribal deck. That's a casual deck that is looking to assemble like 4 or 5 card combos, and then win with usually like a Jai-Immolating Inferno or something along those lines. Teferi Persistent Petitioner. So that's the mono blue Teferi Planeswalker with a Persistent Petitioner mill build. Very fun. Love that. And then a Braille Landfall deck, which is also a combo deck. That's right, Sans Green Landfall. I know you're curious. So yeah, hit me up on at Staff of Sage on Twitter. You can find the poll there. You can vote to let me know which one you would like to see covered next. And yeah, this is, catch me on the internet. Follow me on Moxfield for when I post all of my new lists. You'll find the list to this deck in the show notes, where you also find links to Patreon and a Discord and etc. And that's everything. Have a good rest of your day, friends.